TikTok, it's time to rock. It's the Sunday show. It's the A-team. It's Andrew here with the Rock Professor and Brad. I don't know what Brad's been doing. I know what the Rock Professor's been doing because he's been filling me in. Brad's been busy doing things, Brad things. I hosted a really interesting show today with a couple of cool cats. Yeah, that was really, really interesting, Simon and Brad. It was a great show. It's always great to hang out with some rat bags, other than present company.
It sounded like lots of fun to me when I wasn't there. So, oh dear.
Yes, been looking forward to today's show, gentlemen. Should be a good one.
Awesome. It's good to see you guys. Simon, obviously, our thoughts are still with you and your family over this period of time until you get. I hate to say it, but closure. Until closure comes,
November the 3rd.
Yeah.
My
fantastic. There's a date.
The 3rd, so we've got the we had the results. Well, they had to do a post-mortem because she died in unexplained circumstances. Shock horror probe, 87-year-old woman dies. I don't know. Yeah, she's 87. Yes, it's like, so what do you want to do a post-mortem for? 87-year-old, yes, that's what happens when you're 87. It's like, so they did a non-invasive post-mortem, which is cool. And just put, she died of old age. Well, yeah, absolutely. That's what happens, So,
awesome.
So that's all sorted, and now there's death certificates, and then we can get on with organising the funeral, which we've been doing last week. We went and had these. You could do fun things these days, can't you? It's you can get the coffin and decorate it yourself if you want.
We did that with my mum's coffin too. It was it was good. It was good fun.
Yeah. So my brother has wild and crazy ideas. He said, right. He said, we're not having a hearse. We're not having those blokes in black hanging around. And we're all looking at him going, right, really? So what's your plan? So anyway, they're bringing her an electric car and we're carrying.
Brilliant.
And by the way, the most frightening thing I've ever been told is when we did it for my dad, we sort of pulled him out the back of my brother's car. We're just about to get onto it, and the funeral director said, "Oh, by the way, the handles are just for show."
Oh, wow.
I'm just about to get all of a handle, good heft up. Don't do that, Simon. Don't do that. It could end in disaster. Yeah,
that's
the handles are just for show.
Well, keep us in touch, and we'll keep you in our thoughts and prayers. I'm sure everybody in the chat will. Yeah. If you guys are watching on a replay and you want to leave a comment here for the Rock Professor and his family, please do. We like to have comments on the end of our shows when they go on our catalogue, guys. So if you can help us by making some comments, going back and having a look at some of our old shows, it's really, really important, Brad, for our algorithms and stuff like that. And again, if you haven't subscribed to us, we've got some news there. I'm sure Brad and the Rock Professor are going to talk a little bit about that. We've had a few subs over the last couple of days, which is always good. But again, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, and also our friends, Brad's there. Jim from the chat, he's got a channel there, and so go and subscribe to all of our friends. And if you want to be there, Brad and Simon, of course we'll put you there. There's no price for membership to have your channel on our channels page.
Nope,
that's right.
No, that's right.
That's right.
Yeah. Anyway, so thank you very much, and I had lots of kind words from everybody all across the world, which has been lovely, very supportive. So I'm very happy with that. It's very kind of you all.
Awesome. Hey, guys, I don't know what you guys did on Friday night, but this is what I did on Friday night. All right.
Oh, look! Woo. in.
She tell me that she do, she tell me that she don't, but it's the one time I give her anything she wants. I like it like that. We like it like that. We like it like that. I like it like that.
Yeah.
I gotta come clean. I gotta come clean. That's
Jimmy Vaughan.
Yes. Yeah, which one's Jimmy? Yes.
Yeah. I gotta come clean. That's not me, ladies and gentlemen. That's not me. That's
Is it Jimmy? What's he called? Jimmy? No. What's he called? He's that American guy, isn't it? Plays with Joe Bonamassa a bit.
yeah. Yeah. I got two people sent it to me. Carl, a good friend of our channel, sent this.
Indeed.
He said some swear words and you're moonlighting, and I had a look. I had a look at it, and I thought for a second there, Brad, I thought someone had photoshopped. I thought John ZD351 had done something silly. You know, and because I had to have another look, and it's, no, that I'm a little bit better looking than that dude, but that guy's a better guitar player than me.
Jimmy Vivino, that's right. He's called Jimmy Vivino. That's right. Yeah.
Doesn't matter about the playing, Andrew. As long as you're more handsome, that's all that matters.
Oh,
yeah. Got a better beard than that.
Yeah. So. Thank you for allowing me to indulge in a little bit of.
You would be before him.
Thank you for allowing me to indulge in a bit of shit stirring there. I thought it was fantastic. Thank you, guys.
Lovely. I was taken in for a minute. I thought it was like, blimey, he's out playing.
I was like, oh my goodness, how come none of us saw this until now?
Yeah.
Rock Professor, before we kick off the show, thank you for laughing with me. You guys are awesome. Do you want to do a quick shout out because you're doing the intro?
I'll do a quick shout out to the team as well in the chat. That'd be great. Yeah. So we've got Derek Clacton. Morning, Derek. I presume you'll watch something on the replay. Jazz Thunder 50. Jim. Morning, Jim. Morning, Arvin, of course, or evening in your world. Yes. Hugh Caldwell. Morning, Hugh. And Gretch Zeppelin, good morning, Gretch. Hope you're well. And Ellen, Tol, morning, Ellen. Hope you're good. And I've been making lots of comments, which is fantastic. Johnny Heartbreaker, morning, Johnny. How you doing? And thank you for your kind message, very kind. And so I think that's everybody. So morning to you all. Thanks for joining.
Cheers,
good
Jonas.
to see you all. Yeah, we've got Jonas as well. Arrived, has he? Did I miss Jonas, or is he watching on something else?
No, he's been lurking. But yeah,
there he is, Jonas. Good morning, Jonas. Sorry, apologies for missing you. You're the only one not in blue. That's what puts me off, is it? My eye is drawn to the blue.
No, we can't call that clickbait, guys. That's not clickbait. That's just mucking around because remember, Brad and Simon and I have got a rule. Clickbait is only the hosts only
in the show
and all family.
Yes.
we can't scour the internet, Brad, for bimbos and half-dressed things and put them down and say, oh, look, the British Electric Blues show on Sunday's got this going.
Oh goodness,
that's beyond us.
That's not what we do. It's not what we do, Simon. Anyway, why would we want to do that, Simon? Why would we want to do that?
Why would we? Why would we
want to do that when we can just do that? That's why would we?
Oh my goodness.
Oh dear. Honestly.
All right.
Fantastic. Got the guns on him.
I'm watching. Things you do to sell yourself, huh?
The things you do for the show.
Yeah, not much.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Shall we get the track? Shall we get the?
Shall we start?
Should we start the
Let's
show?
start. Let's stop this nonsense. Yes, we better get on with it.
Let's get the show back on the tracks. Yeah.
All right.
Let's come off a little bit.
Right. So this morning's album is Rory Gallagher's Deuce. Rory Gallagher. Released in 1971. Just the golden year of 1971 for the album. Just 6 months after his first solo record.
Yep.
Having split up from Taste. Yeah, 6 months, team. Just to put that out there as a, in those days you got on with it because of the times, which is interesting. It's a lot of people had 2 albums out a year. Led Zeppelin, didn't they? First year they had 2 albums out. Yeah, shoveling them out. And one of my favorite bands, Fairport Convention, had 3 albums in a year. That's quite something. Their first albums were in 1 year. So, second album in 6 months. Again, as a 3-piece, so I think is Rory's favorite early combination. Just the classic. Sorry, Andrew, were you going to say something? You look like you were.
Oh no! I'm just no.
Morning, Quentin. It was recorded in, and of course, Deuce. I should say Deuce means 2, which would be a second album. You see, it's all very clever, very clever. And Rory was a mere stripling of 23 at the time. He got a few years under his belt from the show bands and Taste, but still a young guy making his way. They recorded in a place called Tangerine Studios in Dalston, opposite, with Jerry McAvoy on bass and Wilgar Campbell on drums. The engineer was Robin Sylvester, and it's produced by Rory Gallagher himself. Because one of his great things, he always wanted control, and this was one of his ways of getting control. Was to it. Took about 3 weeks to record, and as we've said so often on these shows, that it was done to capture the feel of a live performance that Rory wanted, and so a lot of it was three guys in a studio counting it off and playing, and I think you can hear that a lot on this record. There's there are some overdubs and things, but the core of it is that 3-piece playing and singing together, and which as from my point of view is on an 8-track tape recorder, your constraints make you more creative about what you can do. I think in terms of dynamics and all sorts of other things, didn't have much in the way of effects. So Tangerine Studios had been built by pioneering producer Joe Meek, who had a studio in Holloway Road, which is where I went to university. So I used to walk past where he used to have his studio, and made the famous Telstar in that little studio. But he also built this pint-sized reggae studio in Dalston, East London. Apparently, it was sited next to a bingo hall, and the studio had fallen out of mainstream favour, save only with reggae bands who also like the funky feel of the glaring tangerine painted studio. And I think we got a picture or 2 of that later. Apparently, during the bingo calling in the adjoining hall, the working hours for the studio would often cause conflict. Faint 88s and 66s would be picked up on tape, whilst the bingo ladies would be rocked from their leisure time, confused by the caller shouting, "Turn it down," through his microphone. This meant volume had to be curtailed. However, out of bingo hours were better suited, and Rory recorded this out of hours. So sadly, no shouts of 88s in the background. Which I think is rather sad, but that's a lovely little story. Again, his own producer, capturing a live performance when he favoured recording after shows, as he was still on the road promoting his first album. So on many occasions, the sessions would start in the small hours and go on through the night. It's hard work, really. It's he said at the time, I love playing to people. The audience meant a lot to me. It's not the whole thing. I love recording too, but I need regular and frequent contact with the public. It gives me energy. So that's when it was recorded. I think at the time it wasn't realized to be a huge success. Rolling Stone didn't give it a very good review, and I think it got lost then in the next album, Live in Europe, which we've done. That followed fairly quickly onwards and got kind of subsumed into that, and that became quite a big hit. Whereas this kind of didn't really take off in that way. But it was kind of it's kind of really the summation of what he wanted to do for a 3-piece, and as such, I think is a really interesting record. It's very diverse. A typical 1971 album, pretty diverse, different styles, different takes and things, and it'd be interesting to see what you guys think of it as a record. I don't know. I'll just go into I have heard this record because I saw Rory Gallagher in the mid-70s. I think maybe on the Tattooed Lady tour. That's kind of where so I have heard it before a few times, but not a huge amount. So it was really nice to go back to it and kind of listen to it properly again and take it in and realize what a great album it is. Because it's from 1971, all those great albums from 1971, and it fits right in, really good. So, where did you guys hear it? Have you heard it before much, or Andrew?
Yeah, I'm familiar with all of Rory Gallagher's albums, only in the sense that I went through a Rory Gallagher phase in my mid-20s, Brad. So where I listened to the whole lot, and you guys know what it's like when you discover this artist and you just involve yourself in everything that they do. It's just like your first new girlfriend or something. You just want to just be around it or be around the artist for as much as you can, and I certainly did. And the good thing about that period too, Simon, is that CDs were coming out, and I had friends that were doing a lot of dubbing. So on cassette tapes, because you still had cassette tapes, so we were still sharing cassette tapes. So while Brad, I didn't have the album, I was still being able to listen to the album on a cassette tape and appreciated it. There's a couple of things that I just want to just add in to the Rock Professor's intro, which is fantastic. I am not a Gallagher expert at all. I have got a biography on Kindle that I got a couple of years ago, and I have watched the documentary. There's a documentary out, and I recommend that people go and watch this because it's going to give you an insight into what this guy is, the way that he was just this humble, quiet guy, and he literally was. And how he would work himself up in a state. And there's a couple of other videos there where he's behind the scenes, Brad and Simon, getting ready for, and he's like quite, he got this nervousness, and then he gets out there. Two things, Simon. You said that he was interested in maintaining links with the ordinary people, the public. He saw very clearly, very, very early on, that he was a bridge builder before this idea of bridge builders became commonplace in our modern language. Go and build a bridge and get over it kind of stuff, Brad. Yeah, he was actually building bridges between the situation that was happening in Ireland at the time between, the Catholics and the Protestants. He understood that. And he took pride in the fact that he could have Catholics and Protestants both come to his gigs and rock out and get on the booze, and then boogie out and go and do stuff. He loved that, and he took that role very seriously. Never spoke about it much. Didn't stand up there like Bono and said, "Hey, peace and make love, no war," and all that kind of stuff. Just did it solely, Brad, through his music, which is one of the reasons why I rate him. And Rock Professor, you also said too that he learnt or that he'd like to take control. He learnt that early on because didn't he start playing with these show bands when he was 11 years old or 12 years old? So he was up there.
Pretty young.
So he knew, and people were telling him at an early age, when you get your own band, get control. Because if you don't get control, boy, they're going to rip you off. So he heard and learnt that lesson.
Yeah.
And I think he'd also learnt some lessons, and around he wanted to break America, and his manager, he had a lot of conflict with his manager about how to do that and things. And So I am Andrew. If I remember, I'm going to do this. You and I did a show on Rory Gallagher, on his background and everything.
Yes.
A long time ago. I'm going to put that in the chat right now because I can.
Yeah, if you can do, and I will do a link to that.
Yeah, do the link to that one.
I'll do a card. I'll do a card on the show.
Yeah. So I just remembered. So I thought, oh, wait a minute. We did that. So yes, I put anyone who wants to watch that. I put the link in the chat there, so you can go and have a look at it, because we went through a lot of detail on his early life and how he got his strats and all those things. Which,
this must have been pre-Ronnie Woody, or was
it? This is before BC. This is
BC. Yes. BBC.
Because I'm sitting here going, I don't think I did that. So it must have been just you two.
No, you didn't. It was definitely pre-you. I think it was when post to Carl and pre-you. So I think me and Andrew did it. But it contains a lot of info there in background if you want to go and watch that. So.
Yeah, one of my favourite artists, and again, we're going to talk about this, I'm sure, but, again, Brad Simon, a spokesman for the Stratocaster, just...
Yes, absolutely, yes. Although we did play a telly as well, quite a lot, but I don't think, never seen with a humbucking pickup, with a humbucking guitar, that's for sure.
No, and we got a couple of picks during halftime. Rock Professor will throw them up, and I made sure that we threw in a tally pick because he was fond of. I suppose, Brad, the safest thing for us to say, he was fond of the Fender sound. Is that probably the best thing that we should use to describe? Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And now, obviously, Fender have a Rory Gallagher signature custom shop as well, which is very relic. I played a music store here in Melbourne, down in Geelong. This is pre-COVID period lockdowns and all that. So I played one custom shop. It was very highly priced for a very worn out looking guitar. But, I tell you what, the thing sounded great. It sounded fantastic. I mean, I'm a Strat and a Les Paul guy, so for me, I kind of really enjoyed playing it. And it was a 3-way switch, though. I think it was a 3-way switch on it. But anyway, it was a wonderful guitar, and I was thinking, man, if I won Lotto tomorrow, I'd rush out and buy that just to have it. So it felt nice. It felt played in, but obviously that's the custom shop version. So the custom shop guitars are obviously handmade. So for me, Rory, for me, this album, I have to be brutally honest. I've only listened to this album a few times, but Rory Gallagher, I listened to Rory Gallagher a lot in the 90s, but it was more to do with the fact that I knew, like, my influences were influenced by him, including Slash, Brian May, and all that. So I'd go and check out this guy who's holding this worn-out Stratocaster, and I'd go check out what all the fuss was about, and that's how I heard this album, and obviously thought it was fantastic and whatnot, but obviously, through the years, it's just I haven't listened to this album for a very, very, very long time, guys, and it was like listening to the album for the first time over the last week, because I guess that's the joys of you know, this show we dig out some gems that haven't been sort of brought out in a long time. You know, like for me, like even some of the others we've done in the past, I haven't listened to in decades, and now also I listened to it, and I realised how much I loved it. So, great choice too, Simon. So, well done.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, as you know, I consider these shows to be a bit of sort of what Andrew would call archaeology. You know, digging into maybe less well-known albums, artists, and you know that just aren't Led Zeppelin. You know, and we dig a bit deeper into that British electric blues, you know, genre from this period. You know, there are a lot of artists doing those things, and you know, I really like the fact that we're doing the Keith Hartley band and we're doing Rory Gallagher and we're doing, you know, those things, because I think going back to Juicy Lucy, I think those albums are important for us to, you know, go back and listen to them with fresh ears and go, were they really any good or not? You know, and actually they're pretty good, you know. And it's really nice to do that. And I think, you know, and I may have heard those albums a few times, but not very much, you know, and I think it's really good to go back and remind people and do shows about these albums, you know, so that people you come back and investigate and go, oh yeah, they did a show on that record, maybe I'll listen to it, you know, the record that is and us, but
yeah.
So, you know, I think it's really important. So I can't remember the person who said, do you think you're going to run out of albums? Not anytime soon.
That was a good friend of mine, a very good friend of mine, who will remain nameless. But
I think we should name and shame.
but it's someone that we know, and it was a true thing, and I was like,
you're doing all right so far. Yes. 10 years after.
Yeah.
Hang on, there's another. Anyway, so excellent. Anyway, so shall we get on with the track listing?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so side one, you know me, it's always got to be vinyls. Side one, track one is called Used to Be. I mean, it sets a really good tone for the album. I think it's kind of, you know, that it's not a straightforward, just a straightforward blues song. It's much more varied than that. It has that kind of 3-chord structure to it, but it's not it's not a sort of 12-bar or anything like that by a distance. It starts off with Rory playing a sort of discordant chord, if that makes sense, which kind of, you know, resolves itself into an A major chord. And then you get the drums and the bass come in and they're off. And I like the fact the A has got that kind of blues riff to it. The D is arpeggiated and the E is just straightforward downstrokes. So every chord is played in a different way for the 3 chords. That's really, you know, attention to detail. I think it makes it really interesting. And I think that, you know, that it's, you know, it's those are the things that you learn, don't you? You think, oh, look at that. Look, he's playing, each chord is played in a different way. And that gives it a different texture and a different dynamic of all 3 things. You know, the arpeggiated D is kind of very melodic, whereas the E is much more kind of aggressive. Dang, 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 dang. Downstrokes, yeah. So change thing. Usual impassioned singing from Rory, you would expect nothing less, and you absolutely get that from him. You get the chords that lead into the blistering solo, you know, and you know, Rory's always very passionate solo, you know, launching himself into it. And I think one of the things we could talk about more is his soloing, and it's not only pentatonic, you know, just pentatonic playing by distance. There's a lot of other stuff going on in these things. It spreads out a lot, and which is, I think, makes them really interesting. And there's another sort of another solo at the end, which is really great. I gave this 9 out of 10, never a skip, and a really great opening track to this album. Brad.
Excellent. Well, yes, it's a great intro, great riff, very bluesy. And I did put down passionate vocals. So Rory has that in his voice. He's giving everything he's got the whole time. And the drums and bass, very tight. the funky moving bass line. Really enjoyed the tones of the recording as well. It's got that classic 70s, early 70s tones to it. And I think that's the character of a lot of those records that we miss in modern day music. Really enjoyed that. So yeah, the solo, it's all class. Well-written song. I really enjoyed the lyrics as well. Again, you mentioned that it's like a live performance as much as possible. Sounds like a live performance, like an on-stage performance. And the 4-minute mark onwards is fantastic. I gave it 9 out of 10. It's never a skip for me. Andrew.
Yeah, it's interesting because when I listened to it, guys, it sounded like classic Rory Gallagher to me, after listening to Rory, in various compilations and stuff like that. And then I sort of had to pinch myself and realize actually it's his second album. So it's classic Rory. It's a classic Rory intro. The Rock Professor said it, those nice arpeggio chords in the intro are really, really cool. And he's described them very, very well, what's actually going on there. Also pinched harmonics. And his vibrato is up there, guys, with the best, in my opinion on this. A musicologist, an archaeologist will say, well, this goes all the way back to taste. And when you consider he's, 2 years out of, or maybe a year out of taste, so it wouldn't be a surprise that there were elements of taste coming through in this, and that would have been nice for a lot of the taste fans at the time too, to be sort of latching onto something that they were a little bit familiar with Simon. It's always a good thing. The outro solo goes for 1 minute. The outro solo is 1 minute long. Go and check that out, and because of that, Brad and Simon, I've got to give it a 10 out of 10. Great, killer intro track.
And setting the tone as ever, as we like to do on this, for the album.
Yeah,
and I think I think there's a lot in it, isn't there, in terms of that setting the tone and saying this is not going to be, it has some blues influences for sure, but it's not going to be a straightforward blues record in that way. Just that maybe if you went back to it and you listened to live in Europe and things, you might not get quite the same thing off that as you do off of these studio albums. It's I've Tattooed Lady for a long time, which is a really good record as well. I really liked, but again, it has a lot of things that are not straightforward blues on it at all. So anyway, the second track is where are we? I'm Not Awake Yet, which again is not a straightforward blues track. It contrasts with the first track, and it starts with a fade in of acoustic and a very clean electric guitar, and it plays a kind of rising rising chord sequence, 4-chord sequence, which again is not has blues elements to it, but isn't. Which is really nice. I mean, I think people don't mention Rory's melodic sense enough. His sense of melody and his, sense of being able to produce something memorable from different, and as I say, that breadth of having different chord sequences and different things going on. So I think, impassioned singing again. The drums and the bass are a lot more busy on this track. There's a lot of driving it along. It's a great groove as well. And I think that, that Brad, you mentioned it just now, that kind of funky groove that he can get into, and an acoustic solo just to keep you interested, which is quite a long way from the first track and what he does on the first track, as a contrast. I think it's I've said this before, but 1971. If you go and listen to albums from 1971, that period, they are always really varied. They have, because of they didn't have loads of effects and things. What you did an electric track, then you did an acoustic track, and you did some other track, and then you would have a track without something, guitars or whatever. And I think this is in the great grand tradition of that, is you're exploring what you can do musically in as broad a way as possible. Nothing is ruled out. You can do everything anything you want. As I say, you're not stuck, not stuck into genres or anything like that. You can go wherever you want to go. So, a couple of acoustic guitar solos, one at the end again. I gave this a 9 out of 10 as well, and never a skip. It's a great second track. Brad.
Yeah, well, I have to agree. It's a contrast to the first track. Yeah. It's almost like a folk and somewhat country feel to the intro. Some passionate vocals. The bass is really thumping along. I love the sound of the bass too. I really enjoyed that. The drums, they're busy, but they suit the song perfectly. So, sometimes when I say they're busy, it can be a bad thing, and then sometimes busy meaning a good thing, and I think it's a good thing. It suits the song perfectly. Some really nice acoustic guitar work, especially the solo, and the outro solo is fantastic, and it's all done in acoustic, folks. No Les Pauls, no Strats, no Tellys. He's just playing his acoustic. Definitely a very talented guitarist, very talented musician. I had to give this one a 9 out of 10 as well. It's a great second track, and the album's just off to a flying start with the first 2 tracks. Andrew.
Drums, look. Drums are still as busy as they were on the first song. So who's reading? I'm going third here, guys.
I don't know about you, Brad. I can't read that. I think he could have written anything there, don't you? I can't read. Look, he's holding it far away from the camera.
Look, that's an interesting point, isn't it? There's definitely with the rhythm section on this, these 2 tracks, there's definitely something going on with the rhythm section that's remarkably different from the main instrument on this. Interesting song. The vocals aren't as pushed that you would normally expect with a Rory Gallagher vocal. He's actually singing. Brad, I don't know what the technical term is, but instead of like in front of the mic, he's sort of standing back from the mic. And, clearly, Simon, that's what's always going to happen, though, 9 times out of 10 for an acoustic song, isn't it? You're going to be sort of playing a little bit more towards the acoustics of the instrument. I get that. But that was remarkable on my first, second, and third listen, the contrast in the vocals. Wonderful. We've all mentioned the drums, how the drums and the bass are still going on, doing their own thing, which is remarkable. The acoustic solo is absolutely amazing. These, Brad, there's some triplets going on there. So obviously, what Rory's doing is he's playing his electric style acoustically.
Yeah.
So, and it sort of dawned on me after about the second or third listen. So he's not playing the acoustic guitar acoustically. He's playing the acoustic guitar like he would, especially that solo, like he would with an electric guitar, because the giveaway are the triplets, which is the defining point, I think, of Rory's technique. He loves the triplets. So, yeah, I thought that was really, really cool. Initially, guys, I gave it an 8 out of 10, but when I sort of discovered and realised what he was doing there, I've given it a 9 out of 10. Certainly, never a skip. But the contrast, Simon, between the first 2 songs on this album is remarkable. You normally don't get a big contrast. The major contrast normally comes in, Brad, on the 3rd track, but to get its 2nd track in goes to show, Rory undoing this my way.
He definitely is. Yeah. I think, Andrew, you're right. But I think that is I would say it's a feature of albums. I mean, I've heard other albums where they do that sort of thing as well. Where the first track is nothing like the second track, and the second track is nothing like the third track, and and I think is what makes those tracks really interesting and those albums really interesting. That from those times, and that it's not just I found a sound and I found a. And that sound kind of, it's fine, but a lot of bands have a sound that goes through a whole record, kind of thing, as a kind of theme, and that's a different way of doing it, I think. back in those early 70s, I think there was less of that because they were still exploring, where they could go with this music, because it was, nobody had ever done it before, kind of thing. And if you are an influence and you're not being influenced in the same way, it's different. And it's the vistas are wide open. Nobody's gone into those musical vistas before. Then you're in a position where you can you can spread out and do those things. And I think that's what a lot of people from that era were doing right now in that time. So fantastic. Yeah, sure. So the third track, just in case you were getting comfortable with the style, the third track is has an acoustic guitar, 12-string on it. Now we've moved into 12-string territory. 12-string kind of country-ish blues song in the style of, I think you can go back to Sonny Terry, Brownie McGee, but also I want to think an homage to Bob Dylan as well. Definitely an homage to Bob Dylan in here somewhere. Pretty much solo with him playing harmonica as well, and he used to do this quite a lot live. I mean, when I saw him live, he would do a section where he would just play his acoustic and acoustic harp with like a country blues section, very much in that style. As ever with Rory, fantastic playing on it. It's and again the singing and just a bass drum to keep the beat going along, but not much else as a coloration to could I say that really nicely recorded a 12-string acoustic. You can really hear it ring out as a thing, and with the advantage of being a 3-piece, isn't it? There's plenty of space for things, and I don't think that. I think this album is never overproduced and never over recording. There's not lots of instruments on it. I know they record it on an 8-track, but when there's only 3 of you, you might have a track or 2 to fill up. But tends to keep it tight like that. And if that's when it's done, it's done. And I think that I gave this an 8 out of 10. Never a skip, and a really nice contrast. But again, you can see, can't you, that acoustic leading into another acoustic, but much plainer, much more contained as a sort of almost a solo thing. It's really interesting. Brad.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but I just kept hearing Rocky Raccoon by the Beatles.
Oh, stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! I got Paul McCartney for stop it!
Hey, you know what, Andrew?
No swearing, Mr. Walters. Only 43 minutes in. No swearing.
I might as well go.
Andrew, you know what? I know what's going to solve this because of the way we're doing this with me going second. I'll just say I never listened to it. I skipped to let you have the
Off you go. I'm just giving. Come on. I'm just happy that we're on the same page.
So, to me, I just kept hearing Rocky Raccoon by the Beatles, Paul McCartney, and but there you go, folksy song, nice harp playing, passionate vocal. It's what I like to call this type of song a foot stomping song. Swampy feel at times, very swampy at times. Great lyrics. I'm going to put this out there. I don't know if it's a great third song choice, but I think it works anyway. It kind of works where it is. I would have liked to have seen this maybe. I don't want to give too much away about my rankings, but some of the later tracks I think could have been maybe third track, and then this one maybe later. I still enjoyed the song. I'm just saying third track in. I've always thought 1, 2, and 3 got to be pretty in your face, and then the fourth track, something a little bit different. Yeah. But he's gone. First track's different to the second track. So it's a bit, for me, that's the way he's done it. I enjoyed the song. I gave it a 7 out of 10. It's not that I disliked the song. I just ranked some of the other ones a bit higher, so I had to put that one where it is. So Andrew, now your turn, mate. I dumbed it down a bit, mate, so I might leave a little bit.
It's all right. It's okay. It's the burden. It's the burden that we all share when we take turns at going third. It's all good. Look. There's a good chance, Rock Professor, he played that song on one of these. I know you've got one, and I've got one. There's a good chance he played it on a relatively inexpensive guitar at the time, an Italian-made Ico. So. If he did, we're in good company. Brad's already said it clearly. There's a Paul McCartney vibe going on here. And I heard it instinctively the first time, and I'm going to back Brad up on that, whether or not that's something that he's done consciously or not. But we've got to remember 71, 70, the Beatles still one of the most hugely dominant bands, inspirers of a generation. So no one's going to think bad of him if he was borrowing off Paul McCartney and the Beatles. Basic strum pattern, Brad and Simon, love it. It's just classic straight blues, and the Rock Professor said it. Nice harp intro, I'm just going to back Rory up a little bit here. This is who Rory Gallagher is, ladies and gentlemen. Rory Gallagher. This would have just been meat and potatoes to Rory Gallagher doing a song like this, and Simon, we've got to be happy that he's throwing in these meat and potato songs, because we could never accuse Rory of selling out. No. I've given it an 8 out of 10. Same score as the Rock Professor, but again, never a skip. And I've got to back Brad up. We've got we've got some contrast going on here already, haven't we?
Yeah, quite a lot. Yeah. I'll just answer Johnny's. Johnny, apparently he had very acidic sweat, and clearly the old nitro finish on the guitar suffered as a consequence of that. And being played night after night after night.
Correct.
And because what he did was gig. I didn't realise. I heard a brilliant story about it, that apparently he was invited to be in the last waltz.
Correct.
By Robbie Robertson, and turned it down because he had other gigs booked.
Yep.
That's so typical of Rory Gallagher. That's already got some other stuff booked. Can't do it. Rory.
Well, to be fair, from what I heard, they didn't sort of sell it to him like a big deal.
Particularly well, do they not?
No. Now, to an Irishman, you got to go out there and you got to give all the details. You got to paint the picture. You just can't say, "Look, we want you to come to our gig," because he would have, typically said, "Oh, well, we've booked out
do
3 or 4
songs
months
there."
Yeah. And he would have been, because he was that dedicated, he would have stuck to that plan. But if they said, "Look," who was the guy that filmed
Martin Scorsese.
Scorsese's going to be there, and there's going to be big bowls of cocaine there, and and all
that
these
would have
other
sold
things.
it to Rory.
Well, no, I'm only saying.
But,
I'm only saying that because Neil Young came out with cocaine in his nose, didn't he? And that sort of
had to airbrush it out.
Airbrush it out. and in the room that had the cocaine, apparently they had people coming in and coming out because everybody wanted to go in there. There wasn't enough room. Rock and roll, Brad.
Elbow room in the drugs room. Oh dear, so that's one of my great stories about it. But maybe you're right, maybe they didn't sell it to him very well, and the promise of bowls of cocaine probably wouldn't have done it for Rory, because he's famously not a drug person at all. No. Maybe a pint of Guinness would have been better. He'd have been better off, or a glass of Irish, yes, would have been a glass of Bushmills would have been a much better idea than that. But it's still one of those great stories, isn't it? I turned down being in the last waltz because I had other things.
Who's the other guitar player turning up? Eric Clapton. Oh, nah.
Yeah,
okay.
Van Morrison. Van Morrison. I don't know if he knew Van Morrison, but Van Morrison's turning up, and all sorts of other people turning up. Yeah. If you're only going to play a couple of songs, I think I'll bother. Yeah, whatever. Anyway, on to track 4. which is called Maybe I Will. Back to the electric on this one, and I never understood this until now, but this thing about one of Johnny Marr's great influences being Rory Gallagher, and I never really understood it. I'm thinking, really, where does that? Because I never made a connection until this song, and this song has the way that he plays the sort of the chords and then the rising guitar line over those chords is very kind of Johnny Marr. And I thought, oh right, okay, that kind of pick, thing. I thought, right, now I understand. Now I can draw a line to Johnny Marr from this, and this is the first kind of track that I'd sort of made that connection or understood the connection. Made by Johnny Marr, but who this is one of his favorite albums. So I kind of then I understood, and I hadn't really got it from the first 3 tracks, that thing. But so yes, fantastic kind of way of playing those chords and the rising guitar line underneath those chords. A very modern drum beat as well. So I thought it's a very figure, for then it's not it's a drum beat more drum beat than you'd hear now in these days than you would maybe then a bit more. And almost a kind of ragga type solo as well. Very interesting solo, not a straightforward pentatonic blues solo by a distance. And that kind of then a slow middle 8, really nice slow chords picked middle 8. And then some kind of, I wrote some Funky Smith type chords under the singing. and then you've got an overdub guitar at the end to play it. But I gave this an 8.5 out of 10, never a skip. And a really interesting, again, a real contrast with the previous track. Really good. Brad?
Maybe I will. I've put here, cool riff. Nice feel. Slightly rushed, actually. Definitely not recorded with a click track. There's some drums. They're very tight. But in saying that, it gives it the character that I think is lacking in a lot of modern stuff that's recorded with click tracks. Solo is unique. It's got some very sort of slight exotic feel to the phrasing. Very nice. The breakdown in the song sets like a melancholy type mood. It comes back in with urgency. And I really like the ending of the song as well. Look, for me, I really enjoyed the song. I gave it 8 out of 10. Andrew.
Yeah, the rhythm section again is laying it down, isn't it, Brad and Simon? And that's a big part. That's the defining part of this album so far. And as the rock professor said at the intro, it's a 3-piece band that's making this cacophony, and it's really, really great. One thing that really interested me about the solo is the solo is so unlike anything that Rory's played. It's a fantastic solo, but it just doesn't sound like anything that I would identify with Rory Gallagher. And that's not a bad thing. That's a nice surprise, because I didn't realise, Simon, how disjointed that sound was until I listened to it the first time and realised, okay, so he's doing something definitely deliberately different here on this with the solo. I like that. I too have given it an 8 out of 10. Never a skip. Hey, Holly.
Yeah. Morning, Holly. How you doing? Hope you're good. That's interesting. It's I got kind of shades of Mike Bloomfield in some of this stuff that he's playing as well. That kind of modal kind of ragga thing. But maybe we'll get to that later.
Yeah. It's not Rory, is it?
No, or not as I say, out of that pentatonic box completely different way of playing and stuff like that, which again fits in with that kind of diversity of playing and diversity of tunes and diversity of chords, structures, all sorts of things that not only him but everybody's looking at in 1971. And I think he's definitely plugging into that into that feeling of exploration, and nothing's out of bounds. You know, just because I'm a blues rock man doesn't mean I have to play blues rock all of the time, some of the time. So I think that's, you know, it's pretty cool. Good morning, L&M Guitars as well, and Holly. Good morning to you. So the last track on side one is A Whole Lot of People. Again, this has a kind of some lyrics that are of the then emerging and troubled and new Ireland. I think it refers to that in the lyrics. So Rory's not often cited as being as being somebody who writes you know, political stuff, but this has a political edge to it, an element to it. And as Andrew has said, you know, all through the Troubles, he would play every year. He would play at the Ulster Hall, you know, and have a non-sectarian audience. People would just turn up from both sides of the sectarian divide to watch and enjoy and have a few beers and get into it. And you know, he was, you know, I understand. You go and look up.
No violence whatsoever
allowed
at a Rory Gallagher gig.
No, which I think is a really important thing. And I think, you know, that it's typical of Rory. Never forgot his roots. He lived in Northern Ireland for a bit, and he, you know, he understood that thing, and he went back every damn year. In spite, you know, when most bands didn't go there at all, you know, thought it was too dangerous, too difficult, you know. And I think, you know, that shouldn't be underestimated. Really, as a, you know, becomes a cultural event, and you know, people from all sides can go and watch, and you know, brings people together, which is in a small way, but I think a really important one. The power of music. I'm going. So this has a kind of spacey guitar playing a kind of intricate pick line to start with the drums punctuating the picking, and then you've got a verse which has more or less a single chord in an almost drone modal like way that plays through, and then you contrast that with the chords in the break, which you know, you've got several chords in the break. Again, then back to the drone modal thing for the verse, and then you've got a slide solo in this thing. We've got slide swoops and then a slide solo halfway through, which is again a contrast to what he's done before. He hasn't played slide on it before, so and he's a great slide player, Rory. You know, absolutely, you know, nails it. Sliders, I love his slide playing. Back to another verse, and then a second slide solo at the end. You know, so again, that kind of modal thing, and the slide is a, you know, a different slant to everything we've had before. Different thing. I gave this a 9 out of 10 and never a skip. Really enjoyed it. Brad.
Well, for me, A Whole Lot of People. It's got a very cool intro and a really great feel, like within the intro. The song is great. Love the bass and drums. I really enjoyed the vocals. That 1 minute 14 mark is unreal. Love that section. And then where the slide comes in, and that slide solo is sensational. Rory has a very Delta feel when he plays slide to me. He's channeling that. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but I don't know, it's got like a Robert Johnson feel, or so. It's got something that I've heard before that a lot of slide players don't do, and he's doing that, and I love that. The band, they're chugging along. They're having fun. You can tell it's live. About that 3 minutes 40 mark onwards is just magic. I encourage everyone to go and have a listen to what's going on there, especially from that 3 minute 40 onwards. I gave it a 9.5 out of 10. It's a great track and a great way to end side one. Andrew.
Yeah, it's classic Rory vocals on this number, isn't it? It's something that you would, you know, associate if you've been listening to, like I said before, some of his compilations or whatever. This is a classic vocal performance, and you guys have said it. I'm going to repeat everything that you guys have said. You know, that melodic slide that he's doing, and, you know, that Brad's saying that goes back all the way, that lineage all the way back to, the authentic guys that were playing it in the Delta. Of course, these guys, these European guys, these English guys and Irish guys took it seriously. And we discussed it last week, didn't we, with Jeremy Spencer and Jeremy Spencer's interpretation of Elmore James. It was almost mission-like. It was, and Clapton and Richards themselves have said it, didn't they? It was like they were on this pilgrimage to go and do this properly. Rory Gallagher too. He was the same guy. He took it seriously, and I think you're right, Brad. It just shines through in his interpretation of the slide. We all love it. I've given it a 9 out of 10 too. Beautiful song.
Yeah,
Awesome.
really good. Yeah. As you say, Brad, a really good ending to side one as well. Really strong and So, do you want to do the photographs, Mr. Walton, as we've arrived at the end of side one? Traditionally, in the interval, we have an ice cream and look at some pictures.
Okay, no problem. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. So, give me 2 seconds. The sponsors of the photos this week are these two.
Which one's Click?
The one on the right's a good one.
Yeah.
As Andrew said, it's either someone on the show or an offspring.
Latest
Click
comedy duo, Click and Bait. Yes.
Click and Bait are paying for the photos today. So here we go. So here we go. So there's we mentioned that before in the top of the show. Brad kind of agreed with us and said, Rory was a fan of the Fender sound, and there he is there, as the Rock Professor said, he's playing a Telecaster, and he's got something on his thumb, on his finger, Simon.
Slide there, isn't it?
Yeah, he's got a glass slide on there as well. So
yeah, glass slide player, absolutely.
Very
that's
cool.
the cover.
It's a great album cover, actually.
Notice how they like to use the pink and the blue. A little bit sort of harking back to Elvis's first album, had that color scheme on the lettering.
Oh.
Nice one.
This is a pic from around the same era, 71, 70. So there he is, there in full glory.
Strat still with some paint on it.
Yeah, still a bit there.
That's apparently from this album, still from the album. So
Fantastic.
not the 12-string there, Simon. He's playing an acoustic 6-string there, and it's capo that looks like the third
Martin,
fret.
It is a Martin, isn't it?
Yeah, looks like a Martin. It's the studio where he's recording this album.
Yeah.
Look at the state of that guitar.
He's doing something there.
That's called showmanship. That's called showmanship. Hanging onto the tremolo arm and throwing it away.
Look at the guys up there on the front of the stage there, just enraptured, aren't they?
Yep.
He's working out with his guitar. He's doing aerial acrobats with the instrument.
Have you noticed though one thing though that Rory has left on his Strat that a lot of Strat players tend to take off? He's left his
Fresh plate.
spring back plate or whatever you call it on. Yeah.
That's to save the his belly from the springs going ding in there.
Well, if he sweated a lot too, he probably didn't want to rust out those springs every week too. So maybe
yeah,
every other week.
That's a great photo.
Yeah. Locked in the note.
Yeah.
Loved that Strat, didn't he? And this is the last one. So that one there will make you happy. That's not the original guitar that he played. That's one of the reproduction ones that Brad was talking about, with a reproduction Vox and the effect there that he used, Brad.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about, Simon, you were mentioning before about the Marquee Club?
Oh, yeah, we were, because clearly the person most influenced by this, and one of the people most influenced by it, was Brian May. Who apparently had heard Rory Gallagher and went to the Marquee as, like, I don't know, 15-year-old or something, 16, not very old. Went and went down the front and had a chat with Rory about his sound and how he got it, and saying that Vox and the Tone Master, and then went away and did it himself. And that's the Brian May sound, isn't it? But with the homemade fireplace guitar instead, and Brian May, so it sounds different. But wonderful story. That I think Rory was quite surprised that this kid wanted to come down the front and talk to him about gear.
Well, apparently they waited around for him, and Rory used to pack up his own gear. So basically, like, he's packing up, and Brian May got out to the young kid. What are you using? And he happily just, said, "Yep, that's what I'm using." So what a, and I guess we wouldn't have Brian May's tone if it wasn't for Rory Gallagher, because that was the whole thing that Brian May modelled his tone on, regardless of the Stratocaster. Obviously, he had his own guitar, but the amp and the pedal was the tone that he loved.
Yes, it wouldn't make much of a Premier guitar rig rundown, would it? I can't have it. I've got this thing here. Is that it? Yeah. That's it. Do you need anything
to the stage
else?
now where Brian May owns 60 odd classic AC30s.
What do you do with them all, Brian?
Daisy chain them all. Turn them up to 10 and daisy chain them all.
A huge wall of boxes. What a fantastic idea, Brad. We should lobby Mr. May to make a short video of that. Yeah, daisy chain them all together and show us, Brian. Show us what it sounds like.
It's funny because these older guys that are still doing it, they laugh about how the volume, it's affected their ears over the years. So he probably needs a little bit more volume than he did when he was in his 20s and 30s.
He probably does. Good for him. Yes.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah. Anyway, good. So fantastic pictures there. Give you a real flavour of Rory in his pomp and with his kit and everything like that. And as we've said, it's not much. Telly for slide, Strat for everything else, and an acoustic guitar. And that's a Vox, an Arrangemaster. Tone Master, you're away. You don't need anything else. It's it's simpler times, isn't it? And you have to make music in different ways, the contrast in different ways. I've got 17 chorus pedals and a phaser and a ring modulator and a whatever else, a fuzz and a fuzzies are around then. But anyway, so fantastic. So side 2. After a smooth landing on side 2, we have a live favourite, which is In Your Town, as the starter for side 2. Apparently I didn't realise this until now. Apparently it tells it's another kind of typical Rory has a bleak political view of it. Apparently it's the hidden sentiment behind the much resented internment without trial that had just come into force in the north of Ireland, where the government could inter you without trial. It became an essential life standard, and apparently the theme would inspire Thin Lizzy's Jailbreak as well, which is I didn't know that until now, but it makes sense now I've said it. I kind of can hear the two things together. But starts off with that kind of chugging guitar, quite sort of percussive, driving way of playing the guitar. And the drums, rat-a-tat-tat-tat-tat, giving that kind of roll to begin with. before moving into a sort of shuffle. Very declamatory vocals, kind of quite shouty vocals in a way that go with the guitar bit that Rory's doing, with that single note bass, driving it along as well. And then you've got a slide coming in, and I think that's the kind of punctuation bit, isn't it? You do the declamatory vocals, then you have the slide, and then you have that kind of solo slide guitar, and he really gives it some welly on that. So, very impassioned playing, as you'd expect from Rory. And then use of dynamics, and we talk a lot here about in this era of use of dynamics. So you have a drop down, just the vocals and the guitar playing, and then a second solo, second great solo, and again those kind of, and then that's kind of in your town, they kind of almost sort of shouting at the end, not quite shouting, but that kind of spoken singing sort of thing. And then a slow slide solo to the end with a big ending, because you're going to have a big ending, especially on something that's a live favorite. So clearly I've heard this track before. It's a great track. I gave it a 9 out of 10 and never a skip. And so, a great opening to side 2, Brad.
Yeah, definitely a great side opener for side 2, 100%. I love the intro, very cool. I love the feel of that riff that he's playing. It's got a real nice feel to it, very unique. The drums and bass thumping along, really, really tight. Great vocal. I think his vocal suits what he's doing 100%. You couldn't imagine it any other way. Great slide solo, very bluesy feel. Definitely sounds like this has been recorded live, in my opinion. I don't even think there's any overdubs on it. Fantastic in that sense, and I love recordings that have that, and for that reason, I'm giving it a 9 out of 10 and never a skip. I love that live ending as well. That cock rock sort of ending that they do. That's that classic, how do we end the song? The way they did it. So fantastic. So 9 out of 10 for me, never a skip, Andrew.
Yeah, Rory's on fire here, isn't he? For all the reasons that the Rock Professor has said, and, we've said it before, he didn't stand up and preach 5 pages from his notebook and then sing a song. He just got up there and sang the song, and the song, the message is in the lyrics, which is what music's about, Simon and Brad. That's what rock and roll's about. You can take from it what you want, but clearly, it means something to Rory, hence his gusto behind the song. I love that call and response. Rory's singing, then he's backing it up with a guitar riff. Rory's singing, he's backing it up with a guitar riff. Love it, love it, love it, love it. Brad, you're right. That's live. And then you've got that slide that comes in as well. So he's playing, with these other fingers here, and then he's using his slide. So just remarkable what he's doing. Because I thought maybe he'd gone and overdubbed the slide, but I don't think he is. I think he's playing chords. You can play some chords, and then he's playing slide. 10 out of 10, Rock Professor and Brad, never a skip. What a start to side 2.
Yeah, really great. Yeah. And again, a kind of a contrast to what's gone before. It's not the same thing as what that's gone before. And so keeping that diverse approach going through the song.
Bono needs to go and listen to some Rory Gallagher records.
Well, I don't know. Well, the documentary I watched of The Edge was in there saying that Rory was a big influence on him. Maybe not so much on Bono.
Oh yeah. Just sing the songs and let people work out the political message from your songs, bro. Don't stand there and interpret your songs for 20 minutes and then sing a 3-minute song, Bono. Come on. Gosh.
Oh dear.
That's how these guys get away, Brad, with playing 5-song sets now.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. See, lightweights. When I went to see Rory Gallagher, the place I went to see him was used to be called the Colston Hall, and it was the municipal hall. And so Rory, that normally the band would play 9 to 10:30, the main band. Well, 11:15, Rory's still on stage. The house lights are up, and he's still giving it, still going, majestically. Yeah, still playing with the house lights up. Management want to go home. Rory, not so much. Hats off to him for that fantastic memory. Anyway, on to track 2 on side 1. On side 2, track 2, side 2. This is the first kind of true, what I would call blues song on the album.
Yep.
First, definitely the first blues song, singing over a slow blues shuffle. Again, what I like about this is a contrast from the previous track. Really start, it's the track that shows him, his true kind of blues roots. There's plenty of space in the track, so that the guitar can, each instrument has. I love those things where you're playing basically live, but you've only got 3 instruments. You're not overdubbing a load of stuff, so each instrument has a big space to fill, and I think it gives it a feel and a vibe. Those things that is really different to, these days everybody talks about, well, you're in a band mix and you've only got this bandwidth to play in and all that kind of thing. In these sorts of things, you've got all of that space, and the bass and guitar are clearly not going to hit too much of each other, and if they do, it doesn't matter because there's a lot of space to fill up. And again, this has that very kind of clean, pretty clean guitar sound. It's not it's not sort of, in those days, you have a bit of overdrive, but not you don't really have a there wasn't a massive amount of huge distortion sounding guitars. So I love the sound of it. I love that clean guitar sound. I love the slide interjections that he plays on this. Again, playing slide on it, and he's got that that solo just over the bass and drums at about 2 minutes 10. It's really good, with some trademark pull off and hammer ons at the end, which I loved. Classic Rory, that stuff going on. And some great vocals. I gave this 8 out of 10. Never a skip. Fantastic, contrasting opener to side 1, 2. Sorry.
Yeah, well, it's just a bit of a contrast from the previous song and the ones on side 1. A bit of a blues track, and we, on this channel, we love the blues, and it's it's a little bit more bluesy than all the other songs on the album. And I think I can imagine Jimmy Page would really enjoy this song because I can hear similarities on this with his blues soloing. If you go and listen to, say, You Shook Me by Led Zeppelin, and then you listen to this, the guitar soloing, there's a lot of similarities there. So I think Jimmy Page, I know he enjoyed Rory Gallagher, and I think he would have really got into this song secretly, probably, studied it maybe, who knows. But it's a cool swinging blues track, great vocal. I love that laid back drumming. The bass is perfect. It fits in perfect. A very passionate guitar solo, some lovely blues licks. Look, I gave it a 9.5 out of 10. It's never a skip for me, but Andrew.
Yeah, nice slow blues, isn't it? And great vocals. Those vocals on this song are just fantastic, up there with one of the best. Nice to have that classic blues turnaround. Good to hear it. Yeah, it's always sends chills up my spine, and for a lot of reasons. And for a lot of what you guys have already said. The drum and bass are in the pocket on this song too. They're not doing anything more than what they have to do, which is unusual because on side 1 they're all over the place. They're doing their own thing underneath the current of the song, but here they're just sticking to the blues. It's fantastic. I can't give this song any more or any less than a Brad score. I think it's a classic. Yeah, it's a classic example of an Irishman's interpretation of blues, and his vocals on this do it for me. And I've just put down here a Led Zeppelin Jimmy Page slash influence as well too. So they're certainly sharing off each other. I agree with you, Brad. I agree with you 100% on that. There's something going on there. There's something going on in these records around 71, 72. Yeah, there's something going on. Brad score.
It's in the look at that. I have to go and examine my score closely now, won't I?
No, you gave it a good score. It's just I think sometimes we gravitate to the blues, and then sometimes we don't. And it's just how it is. So.
Yeah. I start to worry now. So anyway, track 3 is "There's a Light." This again is a real contrast to the previous track. It's again, I see the line to the Smiths in this. See where Johnny Marr got some of his stuff with this, for sure. But also, I felt very strongly there was a line back to Mike Bloomfield as well, and some of the stuff he was doing. We did East West on here, which is a great record, and that kind of blues plus kind of that kind of ragga playing, that kind of and I think Rory plays a lot of that on this track, and I think that's really interesting, a real contrast to the previous track, and showing his diverse playing ability and his musicianship off to fantastic effect on this track. Again, it's not a straightforward blues. It's got a kind of different guitar chords. But for me, the highlight of this record are those two solos, those kind of not just pentatonic solos, they're kind of ragga solos. And I gave this a 9 out of 10. Never a skip. Fantastic third track. I really love it. Brad.
There's a Light. I really dig this track. It's got a very cool intro. I'm getting Hendrix vibes here on this track. Love the mood, the bass line sets, the drumming's fantastic. Another great vocal and stellar guitar playing. The solo is just, it's so good. I found myself getting lost in this song every time I listen to it. The outro solo is great as well. And, I don't know whether it's subconsciously he's done this or not, but definitely hear like Hendrix, Third Stone from the Sun or something like that. I can hear that influence there on the song. Look, I gave it 10 out of 10, never a skip. Andrew.
Ooh.
Dr. Controversy.
Oh, okay. There's a Light. Okay. The solo bites here. And you've got the drum and the rhythm section working really well and on time and overtime as usual on this song. What I liked specifically about this song was the way that, and I think you're right there, Simon, with Bloomfield, because he's using different pickups on on this song, so you can hear it. He's using the neck pickup and then the bridge pickup. So I like that. I like that contrast and either that or he's switching something, maybe bringing in a different mic, or I don't know. But there's definitely something different going on there at different parts with the guitar. Guys, I've given this a 7 out of 10. So I might have to go back and check my score, but yeah, certainly, it's not a skip, but yeah, I've ranked it 7.
It's fine.
Fair enough. That's right.
We don't all have to gravitate to it.
No. Gret Zeppelin says he may be wrong, but he thought he heard blushes of jazz here. I agree, and that's what I'm getting at with the Mike Bloomfield thing, Gretch, is that that kind of that elements of jazz coming into the playing stuff, which is clearly not just straightforward blues. But yep, that's fair enough. And that's what you felt about it. That's what you felt about it. I think it's important to be true to yourself more than anything else, in your scores, if it, goes through. Anyway, so the penultimate track is Out of My Mind, which is a complete contrast to the previous track. It's a solo acoustic number. Very more intimate vocals, close mic vocals, singing, reasonably intimately into the mic. Open tuning, and is just a gentle kind of picking song. Reminds me of a lot of Leo Kottke and John Fahey stuff. I don't know if you guys will be familiar with that, but that kind of blues picking style, obviously kind of Mississippi John Hurt and those guys that sort of were doing that. So it's definitely a line out to people like that. Yeah, it's just it's a great contrast, and I think that that it's really, this is put in there as a contrast from the previous track and then the next track, and I think it's that it's an important palate cleanser for the next track and from the previous track. And I think that I only gave it a 7.5 out of 10 because I think it's a fairly light piece, but I think it has an important job. It does an important thing, but I don't think it's yes. So yes, Mr. Bolton is giving me the shock already. Anyway, Brad, over to you.
Out of My Mind. Look, I think it's a great folksy, bluesy sort of feel to the song. Am I correct to say it's a resonator style guitar, or am I off there?
Probably no. I think it
sounds like a resonator or something like that. Some lovely resonator guitar vibes.
Definitely is National.
Yeah, definitely sounds like that to me. Great vocal and nice instrumental sections throughout the song. I think it fits perfectly in the second last position of the album. I agree with what Simon said about being a palate cleanser for the next track. I gave it a 7 out of 10. It's never a skip for me though. Andrew.
Well, it's a nice rolling ditty, isn't it? It's got beautiful vocals, and it proves to me, yet again, that Rory is a master acoustic guitar player. And we mentioned this on that show that we did too, Simon. He can play the mandolin as well and the banjo as well. So the guy knows his stringed instruments. I just think this is a classic example of him. Again, playing that instrument that's so dear to any authentic blues man and woman, an acoustic or a resonator guitar. Guys, I've given this a 10 out of 10. I just love it. I just think it's a great song.
Cool.
Yeah, it's not quite a Brad score, but no, it's certainly following a great continuity on that second side for me. 10 out of 10, Brad, and it's never a skip.
Interesting. Yeah. No, I agree. Never a skip. But absolutely, it's not a skip because I think in terms of the flow of the album, it's the perfect place for it, and it does the thing. But yeah, that's interesting. So Brad and I are in timeout, and Mr. Walton is giving us the skunk eye for. Fantastic. Anyway, so we move on to the last track on side 2, which is Crest of a Wave. And clearly, I think this is the masterpiece on this record. I think this is the strongest track on this record. It's a really great tour de force for Rory's, showcase for Rory's guitar playing in different ways. It's it's kind of 2-tempoed track. It has that kind of, and it's the sound of a band, at its peak, playing so dynamically together. It's understanding the dynamics of how to play a nearly 6-minute song and make it interesting all the way through. That I think make this the standout track on this record for sure. And then I think that it's got the drums and the bass, which are fantastic. It's got a steady kind of 4/4 beat, has a kind of pop sensibility in the chord sequence as well. It's not a blues thing. It's a great slide solo. Do you notice the solo starts off in the left, then it goes to the middle, then it goes to the right, then it goes back to the left. It's like, because I play it on my stereo in here, and it's like, it's like you hear it so clearly. You think, wow, look at that. It's just like click to middle, click to there, and go back again. It's like, yeah, just it's amazing. Kind of gives it, but it's not kind of, it doesn't zoom across like that. It's like 3 position switch, and you go there, and then back again. It's mainly in the left hand speaker. It's I love the kind of, there's great drum fills, great bass playing. At 3:10, that middle 8, the descending melody line is really great. Back to the opening 2 chords under the singing, great passionate vocals as ever from Rory. Fantastic slide solo, towards the end, great passionate playing. And a 10 out of 10 for me, never a skip. Absolutely the masterpiece on this record.
Yeah, I agree with Simon. Crest of a Wave. It's a great song. I love, the vocal sound is really strong, and the way the vocal comes in straight away from the very start. The first time I listened to it, it took me. It sort of, the vocals are straight in. Like that, there's no real big intro or anything like that. It's just a boom, they're straight in there, really strong. When those drums come in, that feel and sound is killer. It's just a great feel. That bass line, it's really solid, moving along nicely with the guitar over the top. The guitar's kind of interweaving between the bass line, which is great. Scorching solos from Rory, absolutely all class in my mind. And when I listen to it, the more I listen to this track, I kept thinking the same thing. This should have been higher, maybe in the track listing. Maybe 3rd song in, I thought would have been a great position for it. But I also think it's a great way to end the album. So I have to give it I gave this one 100 out of 10. It's the song of the album, and for me, it's a masterpiece. Andrew.
Yeah, Crest of a Wave. It's I love that strummed intro, and the song sums up the album perfectly, doesn't it? The drums and the bass are on a roll here, and that solo is just exquisite. The slide that he's got, that deft touch that he has, there's nothing manufactured about this song or this album or this artist. It's genuine, and I recommend people to go and watch any video footage. Go and watch the guy. There's lots of it available on YouTube. There's lots of footage. The Irish tour, I think you can watch that whole complete on Amazon. If you've got an account with Amazon, you can go and watch it. It's remarkable just to watch this guy at work. And I just want to sum it up. Bob Geldof doesn't say a lot of good things lately these days. He's a little bit muddled. But he got his comment about Bob Geldof right when he said, that the guy, when you spoke to him, he just sounded like an altar boy. He was very quiet and very, but once he got on stage, he just turned into this other guy. And I think this is, Simon and I were talking a little bit about it earlier in the week. This is the fact that the guy's an Irishman, and music is important to Irish people, and has been for a long, long time. It's communal. It's about sharing their experiences together as an individual and as a community. And Rory did that fantastically with his career and this album. It's his 2nd album in. The fans loved it. Rolling Stone. And we, and in the 1970s, Rolling Stone mattered back then, so they got this wrong with their review, Simon. We like to give Rolling Stone a bit of grief lately, because they haven't mattered for 20 years. But back in the 70s, early 70s, they kind of did, but they got this wrong. But the fans loved it, Brad. And at the end of the day, how many albums have we ranked and discussed, Brad, where the album has been received by the fans over and above anything the critics have said? So at the end of the day, isn't that rock and roll? Brad scored this. it's I don't care, Brad, where they put the song on the album. I'm just glad that they included it.
Beautiful.
No, that's right. Yeah, yeah. It is, and it is a great record. And I think that that records like this were a bit overlooked at the time, but also have been a bit overlooked since, really. And if we can get some people like Holly said, I think Holly, you said you'd never heard of him, never heard of it. Definitely worth checking out. As an artist and as a as a great player. And this is a really great place to start. I think it resonates clearly with Johnny Martin Smith, but also other people as well. There's a lot of he influenced a lot of people, Rory Gallagher. It's like one of those things. Not millions of people didn't buy this record, but a lot of people who did were influenced by it and went on to form their own bands. Like The Edge and Johnny Marr and other people as well. So a really interesting record, and I've really enjoyed listening to it. Its diversity, of sound and of styles as well, and Rory's great playing all the way through. It's been fantastic. So yeah, glad I chose it.
Awesome. We're going to be here, ladies and gentlemen. Next week we've got a guest co-host with us. You guys might be familiar with Jim,
yes,
also known as Jazz Thunder Flash 50. He's going to be doing the intro for a great album, one that's been on our orbit for a while, Brad. We've been discussing about doing this album, Jeff Beck's Guitar Shop. So we normally like to release what we're going to do on our social media, but because he's here, it might be a good opportunity, Simon and Brad, for us to acknowledge that, because he's going to be leading the charge, isn't he?
Yep.
Yes.
So looking forward to that, Jim. That's going to be great. Love Jeff Beck.
Yeah. No, it's a great album too. Fantastic. Love it. Love it.
The unique and brilliant Jeff Beck.
Thank you, Johnny. Thank you, Johnny. Thank you guys for sharing our channel on your social media accounts too, please. If you can do that for us, that'll be great. We're getting a lot of views after the fact, and that's always a good thing. As the Rock Professor said, it's our model. It seems to be the model that people like. I do get a lot of messages from a lot of people saying that they like the fact that we do an hour and a half, 2-hour shows, and it fits in well with what people are doing. And look at the time now; we're 1:37. And we've gone through and ranked an album, had a bit of fun at the start, and showed some picks, Simon. So getting those support messages from people means a lot.
Yeah,
100%. No, I think that's fine, and I'm really pleased that a lot of people think that's good. Because we certainly do. So try and keep it under 2 hours as a general principle. So that's great. Thank you, Holly. Holly's very kind. So thank you, gentlemen. You never disappoint with your content on this awesome channel. That's very kind, Holly. We're glad you enjoy it. And we hope it's informative, educational, and fun. There we are.
Yeah, I think Andrew's still cranky at me about the Rocky Raccoon thing.
I am going to say this, and Holly will get this. Anybody that plays the guitar must know a little bit about music theory. If they can't articulate it, they still know it. They instinctively know it.
He can't stop himself, can he, Brad? He can't stop himself.
If anyone's going to get us in trouble, it's you, Andrew. That's all I have to say.
Oh,
yeah. Jeez.
A smidgen. A smidgen.
A smidgen, yes.
A smidgen.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, good. We look forward to next week, Jim. Looking forward to next week. Jeff Beck, be great.
Awesome.
Really good.
Are we out of here, guys?
It's time to go and have some breakfast. Or, no, in my case, not in yours.
All right.
We'll see you
thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We're out of here.
Yes.
Bye.
Am I supposed to be waving? Oh, sorry. Can't wave and type at the same time. Take care, all. Stay safe this week.
Hold on. Where is it? Could get the video up.
Where's the stop button?